Again, sorry I didn't do news last night as I was a little tired and family and all that, as well as university. So yeah, here we go with today's with a little special for you today, as it's St Andrew's Day, who is the patron saint of Scotland, as I'll be talking about the place called St Andrews, before I go on to a little bit about St Andrew himself. So yeah, starting off with the town, as St Andrews is named after Scotland's patron saint. According to a legend in the 8th century, a Greek monk called St Rule or St Regulus brought some of the bones of St Andrew to Scotland. And in the Middle Ages, people flocked to his remains, as people went on pilgrimages in those days, which is kind of like a way of gaining favour with God by going on like long journeys and all that. And the pilgrims spent money in the town of St Andrews and boosted its growth enormously. Of course, the relics may not have been real, but people believed them to be real. And in the 10th century, St Andrews was the headquarters of the Scottish Church, and in St Rule's Church was built overlooking a cliff in the 12th century, and today only a tower remains. But in 1160, work was begun to erecting a cathedral, and St Andrew's Cathedral was not consecrated until 1318, as the cathedral was severely damaged by a fire in the late 14th century, and it was damaged in a storm in 1409. So it's not had the greatest start, but in the Middle Ages there was a priory or a small abbey in St Andrew's Cathedral. Most of the wall that surrounded the two of them still stands, as the two archways from the gatehouse known as the Pens also survive. The Holy Trinity Church was built in 1410 and in 1472, and St Andrews was made in an archbishopric, kind of like Canterbury down here kind of thing, down here in England. And in the 13th century, the friars arrived in St Andrews, but the friars were like monks, but instead of withdrawing completely from the world, they kind of went out to kind of preach the word. In St Andrews, there were two orders of friars. There's the Franciscan friars, who were also called Grey Friars because of the colour of their costumes, and they live in the street place named Greyfriars Garden. And the Dominican friars, who are also called Black Friars, as their chapel still survives, as St Andrews Castle as St Andrews also has a castle built around 1200, who has a residence in it, the bishop. In his warlike times, the bishop needed a castle to kind of live in, and the English King Edward I captured St Andrews Castle, and the Scots recaptured it in 1314, but the English captured the castle again in 1330, as the Scots recaptured St Andrews Castle in 1337, and this time they demolished it to prevent it falling into English hands again. But St Andrews Castle was built in the late 14th century, and during the 12th century, St Andrews became a borough, and during the Middle Ages it was a flourishing market town. As well as markets, St Andrews also had fairs, and in the Middle Ages fairs were like markets, but they were held once a year, and only once a year, and spies and sellers came from a wide area to attend a St Andrews fair. St Andrews was also known for its fishing industry, and St Andrews University was founded in 1413, and St Salvator's College was founded in 1450 by Bishop Kennedy, and St Leonard's College was founded in 1512 by Archbishop Stewart. However, it closed in 1747 when it merged with St Salvator's And St Mary's College was founded in 1537 by Archbishop Beaton, and since 1579 it has been the university's theological college. And as early as 1433, it's kind of had reformers. One of them was called Paul Crawwer. He was burned in St Andrews for heresy, as four Protestants were martyred in the 16th century, and the first was Patrick Hamilton, and he was followed by Henry Forrest. In 1546, Archbishop Beaton had a Protestant called George Wishart burned outside St Andrew's Castle. However, Wishart's friends took revenge. Disguised as workmen, they entered the castle and overcame the guards, and they stabbed Beaton to death in his bedchamber and hung his body out of a window before throwing it into a bottle-shaped dungeon. As the Protestants then held St Andrew's Castle for a year, but after a long siege, a French force had arrived by sea and captured the castle. Among the prisoners was a man called John Knox. He was forced to work as a galley slave for 19 months, but later played the key role in the Scottish Reformation. And the last martyr in St Andrews was Walter Mylon in 1558. In 1559, during the Reformation, the townspeople stripped St Andrew's Cathedral of its furnishings, and by the 16th century the building itself was in ruins. And during the 17th and 18th centuries its stones were taken and used to repair the harbour and for other buildings. However, the Reformation led into a decline in St Andrew's fortunes, and it meant the end of pilgrimages to the town. And in the 16th century, men practiced archery at the butts in St Andrews. Today this lives on in the street named Butts Wynd. However, men preferred playing golf to archery. And in 1457 the king tried to ban golf as such. And in 1562 Queen Mary stayed in the house in South Street, and today it's part of St Leonard's School, but still called Queen Mary's House. And Westport, port is an old word for a gate. In some places was built in 1589 and was partly rebuilt in the 19th century. And in 1620 St Andrews was made a royal borough. Nevertheless, during the 17th and 18th century St Andrews went through a long period of decline, and as golf has been a popular sport in Scotland since the 15th centuries, in 1754 the Royal and Ancient Golf Club was formed by the local gentry for the ancient and healthful game of golf, and at the time the modern rules of golf were drawn up, and in the 19th century St Andrews was revived. In 1801 St Andrews had a population of 4,000, but it might seem small to us now, where cities can grow to like millions and all that, but back then it was a big town and all that, as the population wasn't quite so big as it is now. And St Andrews grew rapidly during the 19th century, and by 1901 the population was over 9,000. And furthermore, St Andrews was improved by a man named Hugh Leon Playfair, as he was first from 1842 to 1861. He erected a new public building and improved the harbour, and he also widened some streets, but managed to retain the medieval atmosphere of St Andrews. As Madras College was founded in 1883, and St Leonard's School was founded in 1877. Meanwhile, the Martyrs' Monument to the Protestants who were burned in St Andrews in the 16th century was erected in 1846. And with the railway reaching St Andrews in 1852, it was soon after closed. Not so soon after closed, but it closed in 1969. And the new Picture House opened in 1931, and the theatre began to in the car by it in the 1930s, and it moved into a new building in 2000. As in 1943, St Andrews, many people became ill and 2 of them died as a result of eating sausages contaminated with arsenic, as the mystery of who contaminated them was never really solved. As the Crawford Arts Centre was created in 1978 and St Andrews Aquarium opened in 1989, and the British Golf Museum in 1990, and St Andrews Museum opened in 1991 in Kinburn House, as this house was built in the 1850s, but was named after the Battle of Kinburn in the Crimean War, and today is flourishing somewhat, known for history, golf and universities. And during the 20th century, the population of St Andrews grew slowly, and by 1951 it had risen to a little less than 11,000. But towards the later end of the 20th century it began to rise, and population somewhere around 13,000, so to say. But to go into a bit more of history, as in the 30th of November is St Andrew's Day in Scotland, and the patronage of the saint, whose name means manly, also covers fishmongers, gout, singers, sore throats, spinsters, maidens, old maids, and women wishing to become mothers. So yeah, he's got a few things under his belt. St Andrew, who was believed to have left a preacher around the shores of Black Sea, was said to be an agile and hardy Gallian fisherman, whose names mean strong, and also had good social skills. And he brought the first foreigners to meet Jesus and shamed a large crowd of people into sharing their food with people beside them. And yeah, some may call him a patron saint of social networking, with his ability to kind of talk to people and share their food and all that. Having St Andrew as Scotland's patron saint gave the country several advantages, as he was the brother of St Peter. He was the founder of the church, and the Scots were able to appeal to the Pope in 1320 in the Declaration of Arbroath for protection against the attempts of the English king to conquer the Scots, as traditionally Scots have claimed that they were descended from Scythians who lived on the shores of the Black Sea, in what is now Romania and Bulgaria, who were converted by St Andrew. And in the legend of the voyage of St Rule from Greece to Scotland, as it can portray the complicated spread of a devotion to St Andrew from Constantinople in modern day Turkey, as Constantinople is now Istanbul, to St Andrews in Fife, spelled F-I-F-I-E. And St Rule, or Regulus in Latin, was and the 6 nuns and monks who took the long sea journey with him, stands for the missionaries and monasteries who worked long and hard to bring the good news to Britain, as they lived in communities ordered by monastic rule, hence named St Rule or Regulus. As Scotland slowly became a nation, it needed a national symbol to rally around and to motivate the country, as St Andrew was an inspired choice in the early pics of Scots model themselves on St Andrew, and on one of his strong supporters, the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. His statue you can see in York somehow, where he visits his father, and a Roman general when trying to force the Picts to go back north. And although a pagan who worshipped the Roman sun god Sol, Constantine later became a Christian and went on to make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. It all began near Rome in 312 AD, when on the night of make or break battle against the rival emperor. He saw the symbol XP, Greek for the two letters of Christ, and dazzling lights of a setting sun, and then had a dream in which he was promised victory as Constantine ordered his troops to hold the Christian symbol, Christian cross, on the front of an army, and won. And similarly, around 500 years later, King Agnes of the Picts, facing a larger army of Saxons at, sorry if I mispronounce it, Stainford in what is now East Lothian in Scotland, was overwhelmed by a blinding light in the night before the battle, and during the night had a dream. The message he was given that he would see the cross in the sky and would conquer his enemies in its name. And the following morning, King Agnes looked into the rising sun and saw the Saltire cross in its blinding light, and filled him and the men, and with great confidence were victorious. And from that time, St Andrew and his Saltire cross was adopted as national symbols of emerging Scotland, as the Satire cross became the heraldic arms that every Scot is entitled to fly and wear. However, the colour was not white at first, but silver or argent, which is, as far as I'm aware, silver in Latin, as a heraldry white standards for silver. And the first time the colour of the Satire is mentioned in the Acts of Parliament of King Robert II in July 1382, when every Scottish soldier was ordered to wear a white saltire, and if the uniform was white, then the saltire would be stitched onto a black background. And both William Wallace and King Robert the Bruce appealed to St Andrew to guide them in times of national emergency, as the saltire was flown in Scottish ships and used as a logo of the Scottish banks on Scottish coins and the seals and displays at the funerals of Scottish kings and queens, as also King James VI, for example, and his mother Queen Mary of Scots. At the Union of the Crowns in 1603, London was treated to the spectacle of St Andrew and St George on horseback, shaking hands in friendship. And when King George IV visited Edinburgh in 1822, he was presented with a Saltire cross made of pearls and velvet within a circle of gold, and there was also a wider dimension of St Andrew and his relics at St Mary's Metropolitan Cathedral. And it provides Scots with a special link to Amalfi in Italy and Patras in Greece, where two cathedrals named after the saint also hold his relics. Many of St Andrew societies worldwide set up originally as self-help organisations for Scots who had fallen on hard times, for a network of Scots who are also united under the Saltire Cross of St Andrews, and they give Scotland a European and worldwide dimension and all. So yeah, that is St Andrew for you. So yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you later for the news. So yeah, bye.